He wins when it's important. He wins when the pressure is there. When the other people fall because of the pressure, he rises. And the only way to do that is a ton of practice and a killer instinct. Hey everyone, welcome to the Anarchy Podcast. 99% of traders will never make consistent profits. So why listen to the 99% of advice? On this show, we're going to challenge some of the most hallowed and repeated tenets of trading, and in doing so, set you up to succeed where others fail. Spoiler alert, we don't have a secret strategy or magic wand that will let you skip out on the hard work of learning the markets, but we can debunk viewpoints that are holding you back. If that sounds good to you, come join us.
I was scrolling the dreaded YouTube the other day, maybe a week or two ago, and I came across a video. And funny enough, this is not a trading video. I came across a video of one of tennis's top players, I would say. Federer. He's if you follow tennis at all, which honestly I don't, but even I know the name, right? He's a household name because he is essentially one of the, if not the best tennis players of all time. And it was a video of him talking about his game and the percentages involved. And I was so shocked by it that I immediately forwarded it to Levi, who went, we need to make a episode off of this for the podcast. And so this is that podcast. Levi, what's up?
I'm in Charleston right now.
Babysitting for our sister.
Yeah. So my sister, she's out on vacation, and
again, it's our sister. Levi always says like my dad, my sister. We both have the same people. Just so the listeners know.
Yeah, that's right. Our sister. So anyway, we were house sitting for the weekend to taking care of their dogs. Which are adorable, by the way. So anyway, we spent a weekend on the beach. Yeah. So the video was crazy good, and we immediately both, how our minds work. We're always applying stuff to trading, and this one was so good because he goes, it's Federer, and he's talking. You could probably find the video on YouTube. Give it a watch. It's worth it. He's doing I think a college commencement speech. And he goes, okay, so out of 1,500 matches that I played, singles matches that I played, how many games do you think I won of those 1,500? And the answer is 80%. Federer, one of the greatest, if not the greatest tennis players of all time, won about 80% of his 1,500 matches. And then he goes, but guess what? Guess how many points I made? Guess how many the percentage of points that I won versus points that I lost? And it was 54%. So he's, again, almost essentially the greatest of all time. He wins 80% of his matches, but he only wins 54% of his points. In other words, in each match, he's averages out almost 50-50, and just slightly more, just barely slightly more than break even. And he turned those stats into the one of the best tennis runs of all time, one of the best tennis careers of all time. And that was just wildly eye-opening. I would not have guessed even close to those numbers. And we were, of course, talking together, applying that to trading. And I think there's so many great lessons that a trader can take from those crazy stats.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I mean, it just goes to show, like when I first heard those, if I had heard him say, I win 80% of my game, I've won 80% of my games, I would have gone, okay, so he just has absolutely dominated his matches, right? Like that would be your attempt. And that's the same thing. And now let's apply the analogy with trading. You go, yeah, well, there's a guy, I made $1 million last year. Okay, well, he must have an insane win rate. He must be, crushing the trades out of the park. And then he goes, yeah, I've won 54% of my points. Like, meaning if you just watched him play tennis, like, honestly, on a perceptive level, he's no better than anyone else. Like, right? Like if you just played videos side by side, point for point with him versus any other decent, tennis player, they would be exactly the same. They'd essentially both be winning around the 50% mark, which is just incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, so tons of parallels to trading, but one of the ones that pops in, and you can throw some, but one of the one that immediately popped into my mind is that your win rate. We've talked about this before, but your win rate is um the difference between a great trader and a losing trader is very small. It's very small. We talked about this a couple weeks ago or recently about, hey, just cut a couple of your losses out and you're a profitable trader. Like,
Yeah.
like it doesn't take a lot of more wins. You don't have to be crushing it. You don't have to be one of these people on Facebook or Twitter or YouTube talking about their 90% win rates and blah, 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 blah. You can make a ton of money, a ton of money. You can be a very wealthy trader winning, you know, slightly more than break even. And then it's just a matter
Yeah.
of getting enough money behind your name. All
Yeah.
right. And so, trading with enough money, you have to barely break even, just slightly above break even. Here, the greatest tennis player of all time wins 54% of his points, barely better than a coin flip. And yet he's turned that into 80% wins, which is crazy. And that's another thing that popped out at me is he wins when it's important. He makes the points when the pressure is on. And
Right. Right.
that's I think where that's what why experience is so important, right? And why newbies I think can get too obsessed with trying to get a high win rate and trying to get some crazy, like, you don't need a crazy high win rate. You need to practice enough where the pressure doesn't get to you. And this is how he can go from 54% of his points, he can turn that into 80% wins across games because he wins when it's important. He wins when the pressure is there. When the other people fall because of the pressure, he rises. And the only way to do that is a ton of practice and a
Yeah.
killer instinct.
Yeah, I mean, the thing it proves to me is that sports is not all about physical ability, right? Like, because it
No.
just goes to show, like tennis. Okay, he's honestly, you could say he's 4% better than average tennis players in general, right? Because he's won 4% more
Yeah, the average
points
guys he's
than,
playing
yeah,
at least.
than the people he's playing, right? Which are also elite. But you get my point.
Yeah.
So, but he's not really that much better to justify that rate. But then it's the so what's the only difference? It's not really the points. It's really the psychology, as you mentioned, that makes it so he's actually able, when it matters, instead of freaking out or losing that last point, he's able to, it's match point. He's able to actually make the shots and win the game. I kind of think, like, when I'm thinking about this, I'm also thinking Tom Brady. Like, no, but everybody, like, okay, he was the best of all time. It was at least pretty much undebatably that. And that he was the
Yeah.
best of all time. But the reason was, what was he known for? It didn't matter whether he was 100 points up or 100 points behind. Use that relatively, but he was able to still make those plays when it counted. So it didn't really matter. Most people would get the yips if they're down 7 points, 2 minutes left in the game, down a touchdown, and they need to drive the field. To Tom Brady, it never mattered. His whole career, didn't matter how much time left on the clock, how many points he was behind. He could just keep playing. And that, I think, is really important to us as traders.
Yeah, I mean, the what made him special was he didn't actually play. He didn't have the best stats during the season, almost
No,
ever.
nope.
But he always rose to the occasion. He played incredibly, this is talking to Americans here, but the rest of the people, he is just incredibly good American football player, and he played amazing during the postseason and is the greatest of all time in American football. And that's because during when it counted, he rose to the occasion. And this is, by the way, one of the reasons why we encourage people yeah, getting an edge is somewhat important, but at the end of the day, you have to be able to perform with that edge during the high pressure scenarios when money's on the line. That's why we encourage people to start trading with prop firms, not to pass them. You're not going to get rich off of them. Don't let anybody lie to you, right? But the reason you start trading with prop firms reasonably early on is because that is what matters, right? The difference between 80% winning games based off of only 54% of winning points. is when you made those points. He made those points when it mattered, right? When just having one extra point would win the game, that's when he made that extra point in those tennis games. And so that's where you need to be able to perform and create that killer instinct when the price is moving quickly and you need to, and you've had three losses already, and normally people would spiral and freak out. You're still cool, you're still cold, you're still calculated. You just perform, right? You're an athlete that performs at the top of their game, and that's why you need that practice during those high pressure scenarios, and why we kind of encourage that. It's to develop that. It's to develop that feel.